I'm going to start with comp lit to kick off our discussion a little bit.
Sure.
So let's talk about the widow of Ephesus. It tells the story of a woman who stands guard, is a sentinel at the tomb of her husband. When one looks over the inspiration, that's the original story.
That's the original,
fable that informs the story that you're directing now. Well, the thought of a widowed bride kind of starving herself out of devotion to her husband sounds just a little bit cryptic on paper. So how does Christopher Fry turn the whole premise on its head?
Well, he's written a really interesting piece in that it's based on this Greek story, but he's infused it with a real sly humor, I think. The woman who has entombed herself in her husband's crypt in order to starve herself to death and go to join him in the underworld and the afterlife. In his version, it's a little bit performative. So she envisions herself as the dying widow, and that's part of why she's doing it, I think, is to be perceived as a loyal wife for her reputation. At one point she says, how could I go back to my friends? Am I to be an entertainment? And the actress was sort of struggling with it. And I said, this is a little bit like, how can I go back to brunch on Sunday with the girls when I've told them I'm going to die in the tomb? And so she was like, now I get it. And I was like, but I've already told Sheila I'm going to die.
Yeah.
I can't go back now. I'll be a laughingstock. So it's that sort of take on it, that he's got a really insightful look into psychology in this play, I think.
The season is billed as a tales about women.
Well, almost all our seasons are tales about women, but
Yeah.
I try to have a thematic link
Right.
for seasons as we do them, and we give them a title, and we try to succinctly explain how they all link to the title, to the theme. And the overarching theme of this one is called Under the Same Moon, Romance, Rage, and Rituals. So it's 3 different plays. They all mention the moon in them, and in this particular one, we're focusing on the idea that the cycles of the moon affect your moods, and that often you become amorous or romantic, and that's how falling in love by moonlight is sort of the concept. It's a beautiful little play where she has given up the hope of life, and she's going to die in the tomb. She's brought along her maid to die with her, who's willing to do that. And then a young soldier sees their candles in the tomb, and he comes in and he immediately falls in love with her. And they discuss existential things about death and life and love, and find that they have some shared history together. And he renews her faith in life and her impetus to continue living.
So we have the candles, we have the full moon. The stage is set to rekindle romance and invest in life once more, kind of a Harry Met Sally moment,
Totally,
as it were.
we've been calling it like a rom-com. We've been saying it's meet cute in a crypt.
Okay,
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
And let's talk about the casting for a moment. You have somebody new to Northern Light acting for the first time, or a couple of actors?
We have a couple actors. All 3 of them are acting for the first time for Northern Light.
Oh, okay.
Ellen Chorley has worked at Northern Light.
Mm-hmm.
She'd been with us a long time, and she finally just left for the last time. And so now we can hire her as a performer because she doesn't work for us any longer.
Okay.
That was against the rules. And it's a great part for her. So she's playing the maid, who is sort of lusty and of the common folk, and a little bit vulgar and driven by her base needs. And Ellen is so unfailingly charming and loved by everyone that she's just perfect casting for that.
And you have somebody first time on the stage, Julia Van Damme.
Julia Van Damme and Brendan Campbell are playing the lovers, and both of them are new to Northern Light.
Okay, so the stage is set, the cast is set. Did you take anything? It was written in 1940. Is this Christopher Fry?
It was written in 46.
Yeah.
46 or 47. They kind of fudged that in different documents.
Yeah, so how does it play out in 2023? Because the original, the impetus for the play, they've been trying to extract some sort of moral from the original for the longest time. What is the takeaway moment from this play?
I think the takeaway, I think the takeaway is don't stop living until you're dead. Love can happen even when you think it's not going to. But I'm sure, written at the time that it was, that there was perhaps people reading some political message behind the play itself, but I don't think that way. So I wanted to do something that was a callback to something that we'd done before. I love the idea that it's written with the 1940s sensibility about ancient Greece. So now we're looking at it in a couple different steps towards the historical germ that started the whole thing. And so I've also talked to the designers, and I'm one of the designers, and we talked about making the whole thing look a little bit like those sword and sandals things from the 60s, like Cleopatra, The Robe, Spartacus, The Greatest Story Ever Told, The Ten Commandments. So it's that idea of going, this is what we think ancient Greece looked like, but we want to keep the bullet bras and the beehives of that. So we're doing that sort of thing with the design as well. And then on top of that, we're doing something quite contemporary with the fabrics and the texture and the textiles that are being used in it. It's all very, very dark. It's a little Tim Burton-y. Tim Burton palette on top of a 60s Butterick pattern making of the clothing, and then the language from the 40s and the story from ancient Greece.
Elizabeth Taylor and Charlton Heston.
Oh my God, my favorite
on
thing
the set of The Corpse Bride.
Yes, exactly. My favorite moment in Cleopatra. At one point, she storms into a giant hall, and she has to walk across the hall to where one of the dudes is sitting on her throne, and she upbraids him about that. But it's my favorite moment because she walks across this floor, and you can hear her heels clicking on it. And you just go, oh my God, ancient Greece, and she's in high heels.
Just so perfect.
It's so hilarious to me.
That's movie making.
Yeah.
Play fast and loose with the rules.
Yeah.
And theater. Well, I'm glad you're playing fast and loose with the rules, and it should be an absolute riot. Plays at Northern Light Theater at Phoenix. Too Frequent coming up.